Damn.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today, as you can see, we are out in my tiny little one-car garage that has been turned into a transmission disassembly, reassembly, and cleaning area. Right here is a bunch of the D-Series stuff in the Champ team. We'll cover all that in a later video because we're going to do a lot of mix and matching there. There's a total of 4.5 D-Series transmissions torn apart in this garage right now, so that's a little chaotic and needs its own video. What I'm hoping to do today is tear down an X2M5 transmission, which is from a 2002 to 2004 Acura RSX Type S. That means it is a 6-speed with an open diff. Now, this is actually out of my buddy Heath's car. I believe it's a 96 or a 98 Civic EX with a K20 swap in it. And he says that this transmission's having some second gear issues. So what we're gonna do today is tear this thing down and try to get some information out there. So the idea with this transmission here today is I'm going to try to go through a manual transmission and give people some idea of what goes on inside them, because you ask people, you know, they know what goes on inside an engine, but they don't necessarily know what's going on inside their manual transmission. Automatics are a different story, and some other manuals will be different than this, but the best I can do right now is go through a Honda K-Series for you. So what we're going to do today is tear the top half, the gearbox case off of this transmission and try to get an idea of what's going on inside it with second gear. And then we'll get some parts and we'll do a reassembly video of it. But yeah, for right now, it's just going to be the teardown, see what's going on in here, and show you that you too can use your simple little garage with, you know, relatively simple tools to do the same job. So obviously this video is going to pertain to the Honda K-Series family of transmissions pretty specifically. This ideology will also transfer over to other Honda manuals. As far as other manufacturers, I'm not entirely sure. I've never really taken another one apart, to be honest. But obviously we're sticking K-Series here. So the first 3 steps, we'll kind of walk through this in stages. So the first stage, I guess, would be to take off this threaded cap right here that hides a retaining ring, and that retaining ring will be the last step before we actually take the gearbox case off. Then we'll pull off these 3 bolts right here, and they actually are not really a bolt, they're more of a threaded sleeve that has a spring inside of it that holds in a detent ball that actually holds your shift fork in whatever position you put it in. So when you take these out, expect a ball to follow and keep track of them because they're obviously very important. And then we'll pull out this holder bolt here, and then we'll explain the next stage. So let's go ahead and do that real quick and then we'll move on. All right, so bad news already. As you can see, there is a pretty significant amount of metal in there. Those are gear teeth, so we definitely have a broken gear in here. And then I pulled out this detent ball, detent spring, I guess, bolt, whatever you want to call it. The detent ball is jammed into it, and it appears that the fork made contact with it and jammed the ball in there. So the ball still springs, but it can't come out, which is not ideal. It should look like this. So this can happen when these are over torqued. They sit very, very close to the shift fork rod. So we'll cover that when we do the reassembly video. But yeah, this is not good there. That was not working. So got the holder bolt out. So we're 1 for 3 on good removal so far. Next step is going to be to pull out the shift shaft here. So what we're going to do is pull out the 4 10mm bolts that hold it. There's 2 up top, 2 on the bottom, and then it'll come out a little ways. Then you got to take out this inverted M8 hex bolt here. So when you pull that out, it basically sits in a sleeve in there that keeps all the shift selectors in line, and it actually holds this in there. So when you pull these 4 bolts out, this won't come out. Take that out and you'll be able to pull that out the rest of the way. So we'll pull that off, and then we'll pull off the K-Tune shift cable holder he's got here, and then we'll pull out all the 12s all the way around this case. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe that this bolt here and this bolt here are longer than all the others. So we'll go ahead and pull all those out, and then at that point we can start breaking the case off of it. Pretty quick to take this thing apart, honestly, really not that big of a deal. So let's go ahead and do that, and then we'll take the case off. Okay, so a couple things I noticed when I was taking this thing apart. This ring was actually not set in that bearing at all, so we're going to need to replace that and that bearing. The diff did not want to come out, and we had some loose bolts all the way around. So all in all, I don't think that was anything too detrimental to this transmission. I'm not really sure what happened, but let's pull this case off of here and see what we're looking at. So here we go. Definitely going to have to put that in the parts washer and see what's going on in here. Okay, so definitely stripped second gear. There's first, that's reverse on the collar there. That's second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. And second gear, I'm trying to get the camera where you can see, second gear has no teeth left on it. Been polished in a couple of places. Yeah, this thing's not happy. So, we need to find a second gear for this thing. Take the oil tray out. Oh yeah, look at that. That's all those gear teeth in there. Wow. Take a good job of collecting them. I put all that other stuff. That collection there. And we'll throw this in that parts washer and get it cleaned up. Get all the nastiness out of it. Okay, so now obviously the next step is going to be to lift these gear stacks out of here. But before I do that, I want to just explain a couple things. Pretty simply, we can just start here. This is your reverse idler gear, and that holder bolt actually goes through and holds this rod that holds reverse gear. That's why I just call it a holder bolt. So to get that out, you can just lift that up and out of that slot and then set it aside. And then you want to take off the reverse fork assembly here. So anyway, we'll pull that out of there. And then you can grab a hold of this whole thing as an assembly, and you'll have to wiggle it a little bit, and then you'll be able to pull it straight out of the trans. Another thing, the input shaft bearing is stuck in the case, so I'm going to have to do some work to get that baby out of there. It's not happy. And then I guess one other thing to note is the retaining ring that we loosened up. That actually holds in this groove, holds it into the case, which it's right there. You're just kind of tough to see it, but we're gonna need to replace that, this bearing, second gear at least. But what we need to do is get these gear stacks out of here to see what the hell else happened. So make sure that we got everything that we need to put this thing back together and get it right, and then we'll also clean everything that we're going to keep. So anyway, let's pull these gear stacks out of here. Okay, so I went ahead and took out the oil plate right here, which is this little guy. It just helps feed oil into this diff bearing, or this countershaft bearing, and pretty glad I did because it's chewed up as well. So we're gonna have to get this bearing out of here, and then as you can see, there's more gear teeth laying here, so I'll get all that out of there in the parts washer. So, but what we're gonna do now is tear down these gear stacks real quick. I think I have the parts or the tools to do it here. So we'll go ahead and tear this stuff down. We'll get second gear out of it. Second gear over here is independent of the counter shaft. As you can see, it rotates without it, but sadly, the main shaft, second gear, is a unit with the main shaft, so he needs an input shaft. That's not ideal. That's going to be pretty expensive, so he's probably better off finding another transmission to scavenge this from that may have a blown up third gear. Yeah, that's really kind of a crappy situation. I feel bad here, but anyway, we got to tear this down, and so basically we're going to keep all of this, and we'll inspect third gear real closely to make sure nothing damaged it on its way out, and then we'll get this torn down and get those gears out. So we'll just go ahead and do that real fast. Honestly, should only take a minute. You will need a press for this. That will help immensely. So a couple important notes about these shafts. I'm going to tear this one apart here in just a second while you watch. This is actually reverse thread, and then you'll have to press everything out from there. So keep that in mind. This is lefty tighty, righty loosey. This shaft here, you want to get everything up to third gear off of it. Turn it over. Pull the main shaft out. Pretty simple. And then, as I said, second gear is cast into it, so there's no replacing that. This needs replaced. So Then this one here, we'll just go ahead and tear that apart, get it in the press, get everything off of it, save what we can, get second gear, clean up the rest. So I was in the process of pressing this apart, as you saw, and I happened to notice that the pinion gear here has a chip missing out of it. And I decided to stop tearing this thing down at that point because, you know, thinking about it, getting this final drive, it comes as this counter shaft, just the shaft inside of all these gears, and the ring gear for the diff over there in the parts washer. That's going to be at least $600 from M Factory. And then we need a second gear, which is going to be, you know, a few hundred from Honda alone. Who knows what's damaged underneath it at this point. We're also going to need a main shaft and just an entire rebuild kit, seals, bearings. I mean, there's so much damage in here. It's hard to tell. You know, he's definitely over $1,000 in repairs alone right there. So what we need to do is kind of chat back and forth and see, you know, does he want to continue with the rebuild of this transmission and build it because we're looking at, you know, probably close to $2,000 at that point, or does he want to go find another transmission? Because I know you can get rebuilt K-Series transmissions from M Factory or Synchrotech for $1,000. I'm not sure about this one specifically. I think this is an option. So it might be worth it to him to just go get one of these freshly rebuilt and use this one for spares, you know, should he break third gear or something down the road. But at this point, I think it's worth discussing with him to figure out what he wants to do moving forward, and then we'll go from there. But yeah, this disassembly just keeps getting worse as I go. I mean, we need final drive, second gear, main shaft, final drive, counter shaft roller bearing. We need diff bearings, and then we need seals, detent ball there. It just keeps adding up. So we're going to discuss with him, see what he wants to do, and if he wants to keep moving forward, we'll keep moving forward. But for now, if you're doing this yourself, what you need to do is just finish pressing this out. This whole shaft will come out. All of this will stay together as long as you're careful, and this shaft will come out. What I usually do is press it out and catch it on the press, and then I just kind of put the shaft right back into it and grab the whole thing as a unit, and then do what I did here, flip it over, and then just pull the shaft out of it. So that's really the only thing left for teardown at this point. And then from there, what you need to do is just be careful when you take things apart. Just lay them out as you take them apart. So there's sixth, there's fifth gear synchro, which these are dual cone synchros. These are super nice. I really love that Honda does this. And then you just kind of keep flipping things over from there, and you won't mess anything up basically. So anyway, that's the idea. So sorry I didn't keep going on this one. This isn't a very good example at this point. So, oh God, and I'm losing everything. So that being said, thanks for tuning into this teardown video, and then hopefully we'll have a rebuild video coming up, but I totally understand if this isn't the route that he wants to take moving forward. But regardless, there's plenty of D-Series stuff left to put back together, and that's a lot of gear swapping and changing ratios and stuff like that. So there'll be a lot more information on that video as far as like selecting things for your transmission and building it with carbon synchros and a limited slip diff and stuff like that. So stay tuned for that. As far as this goes, we're done here for tonight. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next video.